Good afternoon to all. So, today we are going to deal with the investigation of an epidemic. It's an important topic for your university exam. In every aspect, it is very important. So, let's start. Uh, why we tend to investigate an epidemic? Because of the emergency situation and provides opportunity to use epidemiological knowledge for immediate control of the disease, and sometimes investigation is done after the epidemic has burned out or disease has resumed endemic level. So some of the conditions, some of the diseases, some of the common public health problems in which the investigation of an epidemic is done are cholera, food poisoning, influenza group of viruses, for example, current COVID-19, malaria, chikungunya fever, hepatitis A, anthrax, are exclusively documented as causes of epidemics. And the primary motivation of any epidemic investigation is to control the spread of disease within the population at risk. We have a long historical background of epidemics, right from the 429, 426 BC. We have documented history of epidemics to the current pandemic. Once again, we will review the definitions. What is epidemic? Epidemic is the unusual occurrence in a community or region of the disease or specific health related behavior or any other health related event clearly in excess of expected occurrence. And the term outbreak means it is generally used for a small, usually localized epidemic. Endemic is the constant presence of a disease or infectious agent in a given geographical area or population group without importation from outside. Sporadic. What do you mean by sporadics? The word sporadic means scattered out. Cases occur irregularly, haphazardly, and infrequently from time to time. Example being polio, tetanus, herpes zoster. They occur irregularly, haphazardly, infrequently from time to time. Pandemic, an epidemic usually affecting a large proportion of the population, occurring over a wide geographical area, or in the current context, the whole world. Primary case, it refers to the first case of communicable disease introduced into the population unit being studied. Any population unit, whether of any village or any city or any town or any country, the first case is known as the primary case, which is the first case of communicable disease introduced into the population unit being studied. For example, the primary case in Raipur was that one female patient who had returned from UK. That she was the primary case, and index case is it refers to the first case to come to attention of the investigator. Any case which first comes to the attention of any investigator is known as index case. Sometimes they are used in a similar context, but there is a difference between these two, primary case and index case. Some terms which are very important when you with respect to the investigation of the epidemic are attack rate and secondary attack rate and case fatality rate. So what is attack rate? Attack rate is the number of new cases in a population at risk or susceptible population during specified time interval. This is very important. Every word of this definition is important. The number of new cases, we are not talking about the cumulative cases, new cases in a population at risk during specified time interval. So attack rate is equal to number of new cases during specified time interval upon the total population at risk during the same interval into 100. If we talk about the current pandemic, the attack rate of COVID-19 in India, obviously it will be different for different regions. And the attack rate of COVID-19 in India is approximately 0.00332% as of 1st of June, because the time interval is keep on changing. The number of new cases keeps on coming, and the population at risk is increasing. That's why I have up till 1st June, the attack rate of COVID-19 in India was 0.00332%. That means roughly 33.2 people per million population. But now it has increased right now, current. Secondary attack rate. What do you mean by secondary attack rate? The number of exposed persons developing the disease within the range of incubation period following exposure to the primary case is known as secondary attack rate. It is quantified as the number of exposed persons developing the disease within the range of incubation period upon the total number of exposed or susceptible contacts into 100. So secondary cases were defined as household contacts with similar illness or laboratory confirmed cases after the exposure to the index case. So in current context, the secondary attack rate of COVID-19 in India is roughly 3.9%, which some say is less compared to other European or North American countries. Case fatality rate. Case fatality rate is the basically ratio. It is in words it is a rate, but it is a ratio proportion of deaths to cases of a particular disease. Total number of deaths due to particular disease upon the total number of cases due to same disease into 100. So since it is an ongoing process, so about till 24th of June, the case fatality rate of COVID-19 in India was 3.2%, which is less from the global average of 6%. Now, coming to the salient features of the epidemic investigation. An epidemic investigation calls for inference as well as description. Frequently, epidemic investigations are called for after the peak of an epidemic has occurred, sometimes before, if you have knowledge about that. In such cases, the investigation is mainly retrospective. The exposure and cases have already occurred, and we are going retrospectively. However, in investigating an epidemic, it is desired to have an orderly procedure or practical guidelines as outlined below, which are applicable for almost any epidemic study. So we will see this, what are these orderly procedure or practical guidelines. Objectives of epidemic investigation, that has to be, objectives are generally same, but it has to be reviewed. And one of the main objectives of any epidemic investigations are to define the magnitude of the epidemic. Obviously, you have to share the data with the health authorities. So define the magnitude. The magnitude means prevalence, incidence of the epidemic or outbreak involvement in terms of time, place and person, in which duration it occurred, in which region it is occurred, and among which were the host, where any particular age group was susceptible or in general, to determine particular conditions and factors responsible for the occurrence of the epidemic, to identify the causative agent. Sometimes the causative agent is known, but then we have to identify the sources of infection and modes of transmission, and to make recommendations to prevent recurrence. Now, these 10 steps are usually involved in epidemic investigation, which is commonly found in the textbook. So we will see one by one each step. So first step is the verification of the diagnosis. Verification of the diagnosis is the first step in any epidemiological investigation. The report may be, why we need verification? Because the reports may be spurious due to misinterpretation of signs and symptoms by public or health worker. So when you are initiating such a mammoth exercise, and that report on that epidemiological investigation, so many planning and implementation is dependent. So obviously you have to verify the diagnosis, and for verification it is not necessary to examine all the cases. A clinical examination of a sample of cases is usually sufficient. Lab investigation wherever applicable are the most useful to confirm the diagnosis, but control measures should not be delayed until laboratory results are available. Verification is needed because confusion arises. Confusion often made between food poisoning, cholera and gastroenteritis in the epidemics which involve the disease which involves fecal-oral route. All continuous fever cases may not be of typhoid fever, but during an epidemic of typhoid fever, you have to distinguish. That's why verification is important. In current context also, suspected cases are any influenza-like illness cases, but you have to first send the sample for confirmation if it is happening in a new area. Simultaneous occurrence of different conditions can also be confusing. For example, long back an outbreak of smallpox was reported in a village near Pune, but later the cases turned out to be scabies after the verification of diagnosis. So in some cases confusion, and because of the spurious reports, because of the rumors, the verification of the diagnosis is needed. And it is necessary to establish objective criteria for labeling patient and person as cases. So after the verification of diagnosis, cases are defined. Case definition is needed to identify and count the cases in order to determine who may be affected by the epidemic. And components of case definition may include information about time and place of exposure, clinical signs and symptoms, and lab findings. We will see in the current context what the case definition is for COVID-19. And we have to clearly, one has to be clear in black and white what is a suspect case, what is a confirmed case, and what is a probable case. A suspect case is a case with specific signs and symptoms during specific period of time. And a confirmed, which is any suspected case which is confirmed by lab reports. A probable case is a case in which it has signs and symptoms and has unique clinical or preliminary lab in which preliminary lab tests are are awaited or inconclusive. So that is known as a probable case. So in current context for COVID-19, the verification of diagnosis, and for that we need case definition. So for example, if we are investigating epidemic of COVID-19, you need a case definition. So a suspect case of COVID-19, we have covered this, but again we are reviewing it. A patient with acute respiratory illness, that is fever and at least one sign and symptom of respiratory disease, that is cough, mainly a dry cough or shortness of breath, and a history of travel or residence in a location reporting community transmission of COVID-19 disease during the 14 days period of symptom onset. So you can see the case definition has to be about time and place of exposure. So it includes time and place of exposure, and clinical signs and symptoms. So we are seeing here that clinical signs and symptoms, and there is the brief mention of the place, geographical place, and time is 14 days is also mentioned. Or a patient with any acute respiratory illness and having been in contact with the confirmed or probable COVID-19 case in the last 14 days prior to the symptom onset. Or a patient with severe acute respiratory illness, fever, and at least one sign and symptom of respiratory disease, that is cough, shortness of breath, and requiring hospitalization. And in absence of any alternative diagnosis, that fully explains the clinical presentations. This is a suspect case. A probable case is any suspect case for whom the testing for COVID-19 is inconclusive, or a suspect case for whom the testing could not be performed for any reason. And a confirmed case is a suspect person with laboratory confirmation, or any person with because the cases may be asymptomatic too. A person with lab confirmation of COVID-19 infection, irrespective of the clinical signs and symptoms, is a confirmed case in present context. Similarly, case definition exists for every public health problem, public health emergency, or on the condition or the diseases in which epidemics exist. Then second step is the confirmation of the existence of an epidemic. So we have seen in the definition what an epidemic is. So it is defined clearly in access. So done by comparing the number of cases with disease frequencies during the same period of previous years. For example, in similar period of between December to March, April, how many cases were reported in previous years of SARS, COVID. So obviously when we say it were very less and the cases we are seeing it was very high in number, obviously the existence of an epidemic is confirmed. In cases of endemic diseases like cholera, typhoid, hepatitis A, it is expected that some cases, and always few hundred, always present throughout the year. So these diseases to be considered as epidemic after several hundred or thousand of cases have to occur in India. So a knowledge of locally endemic disease is also important. And in cases of very rare disease which are none in India, like yellow fever, no history, or any other diseases which are not been found in last many years, like polio or bubonic plague, even a single case will constitute an epidemic in India. So the number that constitutes an epidemic varies from place to place. Now, states or districts should establish criteria on the number of cases that constitute an epidemic based on their local situation. Sometimes I have seen that, and sometimes it is seen that the criteria are a 25% increase in the number of cases reported as compared to the corresponding period of previous years. A 25% increase in number of cases reported as compared to the average number of cases over last 4 non-epidemic years for the corresponding period. So sometimes the state or district health administration, they use this such criteria, but generally standard deviation increase in the cases, or standard deviation errors of the cases in the last non-epidemic years has to be calculated. So information may be collected from the routine health service records, that is OPD registers, inpatient registers, where I have to see because disease frequencies has to be seen. So obviously you have to see the records of previous years from OPD registers, inpatient registers, and information should be collected not only from the allopathic medicine practitioners or modern medicine practitioners, but also from other systems, because people in India, they report to every kind of healers, faith healers, Indian system of medicine, modern system of medicine. So information are collected from these two. So defining the population at risk, the third step is, now first step is the verification of the diagnosis. Second is the confirmation of the existence of the epidemic, and third being the defining the population at risk. So in order to determine or define the population at risk, we need the map of that area, and that map should contain information about natural landmarks and roads and location of all dwelling units along each road, and that area may be divided into segments using natural landmarks as boundaries. This is again divided into smaller sections, which each section the dwelling units may be designed by numbers. And for example, you have seen how the in previous you might have read about the map that was used by John Snow in the investigation of the epidemic of the cholera in London. Here also such maps are being created. I will give you one example of this. For example, this is an order of containment zone, and from district Mahasamund. So so you can see how everything is in every direction is defined. This is the notice that Gram Akhra Bhanda Tukda, Tehsil Basna Jila Mahasamund, that has been declared as a containment zone. So Gram Akhra Bhanda के नीचे वर्णित को एरिया को कंटेनमेंट जोन घोषित किया जाता है, तथा उक्त कंटेनमेंट जोन के अतिरिक्त 3 किलोमीटर के परिधि को बफर जोन घोषित किया जाता है. हाउ सी इन एवरी डायरेक्शन, उत्तर दिशा में किसका मकान है, पूर्व दिशा में किसका मकान है, दक्षिण दिशा में किसका मकान है, वेस्टर्न डायरेक्शन में किसका मकान है. एंड आई हैव टू आउटलाइन, यू हैव टू आउटलाइन द एरिया, and you have to then see, you can see this is the area in which the primary case or the index case was detected, and then a simple Nazri Naksha is being created depicting how the house of the person being detected positive, then the roads, the important landmarks, then further specifications of landmarks being depicted. I will share this PDF file with you, and on Google Map also, and in Google Earth also, it has been depicted. So this is outlining the containment zone and buffer zone, how with important landmarks. So it is further divided into smaller sections. Within each section, the dwelling units may be designed by the numbers. And second step is counting the population by doing census by house to house visits. The population being counted, that how much population is at risk, and the composition should be known by gender, and age. For population risk, in case of food poisoning, those ate the food. In the cases of outbreak of, for example, in the cases of outbreak of cholera, those who were using the water from the suspected well, or in cases of current COVID-19, the persons who come in contact with that primary or index case in the last 14 days. Then surveillance. Surveillance, because after the initial steps of the investigation of the epidemic, one has to rapidly search for all the cases and their characteristics. And in it, surveillance is involved. Surveillance is the continuous scrutiny of all aspects of occurrence and spread of disease that are pertinent to effective control. In epidemiology, it has other definitions also. The surveillance is the continuous analysis, interpretation of the health data, and useful for the planning, implementation, evaluation of the that data for the control of the disease or health-related states or events or epidemic is known as surveillance. So the ultimate objective of surveillance is prevention, and surveillance is properly pursued can provide the health agencies with an overall intelligence and disease accounting capability. And surveillance is an essential prerequisite to the to rational design and evaluation of any disease control program. So can be individual surveillance, surveillance of infected person until they no longer poses a public significant health problem for the public. There can be a local population surveillance, for example, surveillance of malaria. National population surveillance, for example, surveillance of smallpox or polio. International surveillance, we know according to international health standards what are the diseases which has to be under surveillance or notified. So for surveillance of cases, you have to do medical survey, and it should be carried out in the defined area to identify all cases, including those who have not sought medical care and those possibly exposed to the risk. In that particular order of containment zone, we have seen that how after defining all the landmarks and after defining the containment area, one has to do house-to-house visit, and it has to be, medical survey has to be carried by the administration of epidemiological case sheet. The epidemiological case sheet, this should be carefully designed to collect relevant information. It includes all the it should include all the information of the persons and the susceptible people. If the epidemic is large, it may not be possible to examine all the cases. In such cases, random sample should be examined. So let's see how the epidemiological sheet of this of any respiratory or influenza-like illness disease or for current COVID-19 is being created. For example, this is the pro forma for and the guideline for the community surveillance in CG in Chhattisgarh. So you can see here कि initially there are instructions कि जैसे ही पॉजिटिव रिपोर्ट की सूचना प्राप्त होती है, 3 व्यक्तियों की कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग टीम फील्ड टीम को पॉजिटिव मरीज के घर, निवास या कैंप जो भी लागू हो भेजा जाना होगा. उन्हें कुछ खाली अतिरिक्त शीट के साथ 3-4 सेट में ट्रेसिंग प्रश्नावली प्रारूप के प्रिंट के साथ संपर्क करना होगा. एंड that Prashnavali, that questionnaire, I will share with you this PDF document. And first, there are various guidelines and standard operating procedures of community surveillance. and then same one has to uh, outline the area, the map, and outline the quarantine zone or red zone, containment zone. Then this is the map, Saral map, and this is the uh, pro forma for the contact tracing, कोविड 19 पुष्टिकरण मामलों के संपर्क ट्रेसिंग, कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग के लिए. So you know, the name of the person, the age, gender, the number of people in the family, then various questionnaires that you have visited any other place, and the, the the persons, those who have come, those who have come in contact with a diagnosed case, all the names, and with the mobile number and address of that persons. Then various informations you have to take, and this is usually the pro forma. Name, age, gender, and how he or she came in contact with the positive person, mobile number, and the clinical signs and symptoms, if any, and the knowledge of the business he does, and the remarks. Generally, there are other models also I will share with you. So, epidemiological case sheet. There are other models also. For example, now other examples of the line listing, the pro forma for line listing of the epidemiological case sheet and line listing of the cases, I will share with you. There are ICMR, specimen referral forms are also. If you find one such suspected cases, you have to refer also such cases during that contact tracing. This is the micro plan for containing local outbreak of COVID-19. How you have to have to assign the duties to the people first, and after that how the contact tracing and various information which is involved in contact tracing has to be filled and shared with the district health authority. This is the data collection tool at field level. Line listing of suspect cases, name of the patient, age, sex, address, the complaints and the remarks, and data collection tool compilation sheet. You have to then arrange, and they have to collect all the such sheets, and they have to compile, and you have to share with the district health authorities, and further
So uh, we can see we are already done using the parameters of time, place, and person. And for preparing a chronological distribution of the onset of the cases with respect to dates, one has to construct an epidemic curve. An epidemic curve suggests a pattern of spread, magnitude, and outliners, and exposure or disease incubation period. So this is an example of the epidemic curve of a point source epidemic in which there is, for example, uh, contaminated well from which various persons are drinking water, and subsequently an epidemic of cholera, epidemic of any waterborne disease occurs. So we can see typical epidemic curve of a point source epidemic in which in x-axis we can see the timeline, and y-axis you can see the number of cases. Obviously, during the course of time, the cases will increase, and obviously because of the knowledge and subsequent knowledge of that epidemic during the uh, during the course of time, there will be a fall in the curve. So it is a typical example of source in which obviously there will be rise and fall in the timeline for a very long period, because knowingly or unknowingly people will continue to be affected by that source. So uh, this is typical curve, epidemic curve of a continuous source epidemic. And for an epidemic curve of, it is an example of epidemic curve of a propagated epidemic. Propagated epidemic, for example, COVID-19 is a propagated epidemic, and we can see the during the course of time various curves are formed because it's a propagated epidemic. In uh, the obviously there will be a rise and fall. We can see during uh, in the depends upon the geographical locations. So data analysis with respect to time, we have seen we have to construct a curve, and then for place, you have to prepare for place, you have to prepare a spot map of cases, and if possible, their relation to the source of infection. That is the the index of primary case, water supply in case of uh, the diseases which are spread by the oral route, air pollution, food eaten, occupation, etc. So you have to prepare a small spot map of the cases. The map should show the boundaries and patterns of disease distribution, and clustering of cases indicate a common source of epidemic. An example of the spot map, which was made by John Snow for in the investigation of the cholera epidemic in 1854. I have shared with you the local map which has been created by District Health Administration or District Health Administration for the current COVID-19 epidemic. Then data analysis with through time and place. Then comes person. Analyze the data by age, which age group has been affected more, which gender has been affected more, which particular occupation, which is are there of any high risk for the people working in a particular occupation, working in a particular uh, job field, and the definitions of which we have seen earlier. The purpose of data analysis is to determine the modes of transmission and the source and the vehicle of the agent so that the most effective measures can be initiated. And obviously to determine the risk factors of the disease. Then comes, after the analysis of data, then comes the formulation of the hypothesis. Hypothesis is the proposition or a tentative theory designed to explain the observed distribution of the disease in terms of causal association of the direct nature. So the hypothesis should explain the epidemic in terms of agent, the possible causative agent, the possible source, the possible modes of spread, the environmental factors which enable it to occur. And after that, framing that hypothesis, you have to test that hypothesis. And all reasonable hypotheses need to be considered and weighed by the comparing the attack rates in various groups of those exposed and those not exposed to each suspected factor. This will enable the epidemiologist to ascertain which hypothesis is consistent with the known facts. And sometimes the hypothesis needed to be tested by analytical study design to the statistical significance. The subsequent lectures of epidemiology to come, the study design. So after framing and testing of hypothesis, we have to, then comes the evaluation of ecological factors, which obviously contributed to the spread of the disease. An investigation of the circumstances involved should be carried out to undertake appropriate measures to prevent further transmission of the disease. And the ecological factors which have made the epidemic possible should be investigated, and such as sanitary status of eating establishments, for example, in the epidemics of foodborne diseases, waterborne diseases, breakdown in the water supply system, changes in temperature, humidity, population dynamics of insects and animal reservoirs, etc. In case of waterborne transmission, if suspected, a sanitary survey of water supply system from source to consumer should be done. Further investigation of the population at risk is done. This may involve medical examination, screening test to identify who are at risk or who can be at risk. Examination of suspected food, fecal matter, food samples, biochemical studies, assessment of the immunity status. Specific potential vehicles and whether ill or not. And the last step is writing the report in the background of geographical location, climatic conditions, uh, in the background of demographic status, in the background of socioeconomic situation. You have to include all this: organization of health services, surveillance and early warning systems, and normal disease prevalence. All you have to describe. Uh, that is who were affected, what were the factors, where, then when, then why, how, and you have to analyze the historical data, previous occurrences of epidemics of the same disease, locally or elsewhere, occurrence of similar disease in the same area or other areas, and discovery of the first cases of the present outbreak. Then report writing involves the case definition, questionnaires used in the epidemiological investigation, various details of the survey teams, various details of the household survey, the information obtained from household survey, collection of laboratory specimens, the laboratory techniques, uh, clinical data, which includes the frequency of signs and symptoms, about the course of the disease, about the possible differential diagnosis, what were the sequel, or if any death, they have to report the death rates also in the final report. And you have to provide the epidemiological data. For that, you have to analyze the data, mode of occurrence, how the disease distributed or the spread through in time, by place, by population groups, source of infection, routes of excretion and portal of entry, factors influencing transmission, analysis of the laboratory data, isolation of agents, whether done, whether not, serological confirmation, significance of results, interpretation of data. You have to, at the end, obviously, and you have to provide a comprehensive picture of the outbreaks and hypothesis as to the causes, and formulation and testing of the hypothesis by statistical analysis. And you have to suggest the control measures also, definition of the strategies and methodological implementations. You have to uh, you have to do cost effective evaluation of the control measures which you are suggesting, preventive measures. So the report, it may be necessary to implement temporary control measures at the commencement of an epidemic on the basis of known facts of the disease. And these measures may be modified or replaced in the light of new knowledge acquired by the epidemic investigation. If you see current any document of by the government uh, from the government of COVID-19, it is usually written at the end that it is a living document. Living document means it will change as new knowledge is and new research comes. So these measures which you are suggesting in the uh, report of the epidemic, these measures may be modified or replaced in the light of new knowledge. Now, these were the 10 steps which were involved in the investigation of an epidemic, and uses of this investigation is obviously uh, uses of report writing is for health administration manager for planning and implementation of control and eradication or elimination strategies, diagnostic methods, for research, for clue and basis for further need-oriented research programs, for general population, for sense of security, for health educational tool, and to develop confidence in the healthcare delivery system. This is of very much important. So, essential function of public health professionals is to investigate an epidemic, and it gives opportunity to gain new knowledge of disease and to discover the weakness of the current public health practices and current public health delivery systems. The world today is especially prone to epidemics or outbreaks because of rapid urbanization, migration of the people, poor sanitary conditions, tourism, etc. Coordination between district health authority, public health authority, uh, private sector, engineering, public health engineering, ICDS sector, medical college, media, and people is needed during investigation. And circulation of the report is necessary to spread the information so that no more such episodes they occur in the future. So this concludes the investigation of the epidemic. All 10 steps are important. Thank you.